think we're ready. All right, I think we're ready to get started. Good evening, and thank you for coming out to the Vincennes Main Street Phase 2 and Phase 3 Public Information Meeting. I'm John Sprague. I'm the city engineer. We have with us Steve Weaver with Lockmuller Group. He's the design engineer for Main Street Phase 3, and Daniel Kurtz with RQAW for Main Street Phase 2. This is a somewhat informal meeting, but we wanted to meet with the public. There is obviously some property acquisitions and right-of-way, temporary right-of-way. We want an opportunity to answer your questions, so we've reached out to everyone individually along the property, and we've advertised publicly as well. So what we'll do is we'll go over information that we have on the agenda for each project, and then when we're done, we'll answer questions specifically. If you do have questions, if you come up to the microphone, we can get those recorded, and then say your name and address, and we'll get those taken care of. And then after the meeting, we're happy to stay and go over the boards. We have a full-size set of plans over here and cross-sections and things like that, if we need to look at more detail about questions you may have. So Main Street Phase 2 and Phase 3, obviously, we started Phase 1 last year. We've been working on Phase 2, which is a federal aid project, so it's a little bit different process than Phase 3. We have to follow federal regulations with environmental documents, and our right-of-way process also follows strict guidelines set forth by the state of Indiana and the federal government. So we have to manage the two projects a little bit differently. Phase 3, we've been in design for about a year. Phase 2, we've been working on for 2.5 years. Yeah, and we still got 6 more months to go. So we have a little bit less flexibility with the way things are going on Phase 2, so bear with us on that. As far as the schedule goes, we are anticipating final plans to be completed this winter, this late fall. And then we are currently on a bid letting for January of 2021, depending on 22. Thank you. So next spring, late winter is when we'll go out to bid for both the contracts at the same time. Construction will be during all of next year. We're hoping to get everything done in one construction season. So that's the schedule. We will be doing both at the same time. I think I already said that. So, maintenance traffic, I'll get to that in a second. So the environmental document is complete for Phase 2, and it's finalized and approved. Yeah, because we have to have all that done before we start right-of-way. So we're in the right-of-way acquisition process. Has anybody been contacted on Phase 2 yet by appraisers or buyers or anything like that? Okay, so we're in the midst of the purchasing, appraising, and things like that. So if you've not been contacted yet, you will be very soon for those. The next thing on the agenda is alternatives studied. So yeah, so back to the schedule a little bit. We are going to be putting out a clearing contract this winter that'll be out of pocket. I'll be discussing that Thursday at the RDC meeting. I haven't gotten that far yet. But we're going to get the trees cleared out of the way so that utilities can come in and get their work done before the contract starts. Because since the contract isn't going to start until the spring, there's Indiana BAT law that says you can't cut down trees between April and October, so we need to get the trees down before that we have a contractor. And also this is going to speed up getting utilities relocated as well, because they won't have to mess with trees or wait for a contractor to get trees and stumps and roots out of the way. So that work will be taking place late fall and then over the winter time. So the alternative study, so as far as Main Street Phase 2 is concerned, you may or may not know, the project was, we had about a 4 to 6 month delay because our original alignment was coming down Felt King and went through the Catholic Woods and then teed into Severs Road. That was the alignment that we went to when we applied for the federal aid project. That was our alignment, and that was our preferred alignment. We actually got through about 45% plans. We got well into the environmental document before we received feedback from Department of Natural Resources, Fish and Wildlife. And they sent a letter to NDOT and the powers that be and said that they did not prefer that alignment because it went through the woods. It bisected the woods. They had fear for critters getting run over, and that this was one of the last section of woods in this part of town. And that was enough for NDOT to say, we're not going this way. We tried for about 4 months trying to convince them that this was the best alignment, that their concerns weren't as great as they thought it were, as they thought they were, and in the end we lost that battle. So we were forced to come back with an alternative alignment, which is what we have. So that's been our main goal. And in the time that we were discussing with them, we looked at other alternatives besides this one. We looked at a couple of different roundabout designs. One was called a dumbbell, which was kind of like an elongated roundabout. I have all those alternatives on file. There were, I think, 3 different ones we looked at, and the RDC and the powers that be elected with looking at cost, looking at time frame, looking at functionality, looking at our project goals. This alignment is what was decided upon and decided to move forward with. So that's how we've arrived at this, where we're at. So maintenance of traffic, I know this will be a big one that a lot of people have concerns with. We will be closing Main Street to through traffic. So it's going to be a construction zone from Kimmel Road all the way up to the school. You won't be going through. Traffic will be detoured down Bauer Drive and down Kimmel Road, but every property owner will have access to their properties. It may be a little dusty at times, it may be gravel sometimes, but you will always have access to your property. An exception would be, like, let's say we're getting ready to pave. There may be, or we're pouring concrete on the driveways in front. You may have to wait a couple hours for the concrete to dry or for the asphalt to get compacted. But anytime there's going to be more than like 5 minutes that you can't get to your property, you'll be notified with either a letter or a knock on the door or something like that. So you will have access to your property 99% of the time during the project. Right-of-way status, like I think I went over that earlier, we're in the appraising process. I don't think Phase 3 has quite started appraisals yet. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so Phase 2, we're in appraisal and buying right now. Phase 3 is going to be starting that soon, but everybody on Phase 3, there's no permanent acquisitions. It's only temporary, and you can see that in the maps here. Green is the existing property line. Yellow would be instances where we're buying temporary right-of-way. And what temporary right-of-way means is basically we're going to borrow a little bit of your property to construct something. So like the driveway. The driveway will be constructed onto your property a little bit. So we take temporary right-of-way for us to be able to be on that property to construct the driveway. And then when we're done, it goes back to being yours. We're basically just rent it for a few months. Permanent is more on phase 2. Permanent is a permanent moving of the property line from where it is to a new location. So, and again, you'll be compensated for that. That's part of the appraising process, and all of that is a process that I have nothing to do with, that it's all, again, NDOT standards and policies and procedures, and that's all done automatically, basically. So that's the difference in right-of-way on that. So that is my spiel, my presentation. I can open it to questions. If you guys want to come up to the microphone, state your name and address. We'll have that recorded so that we can get back with you. And any of us will be happy to answer any questions that you may have. And then once that, if nobody has any official questions, then we can close the meeting and we can go over each property individually with whoever would like to. Does anybody have any questions for everybody?
I don't have a question as much as I just want to start now that Ramsey Road intersection will have to stay open all the time, because we found out in that straight line running in storm we had 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
CSX does not care about anybody on
Right.
the road. So the reason I want to come is make sure, we gotta realize
Yeah.
that intersection, because when that storm hit, we had a lady down the road trying to get oxygen for her husband. I mean, there were numerous of us on the phone to CSX,
Mm-hmm.
and that train sat there for over 3 hours.
Okay.
They don't care.
That's a good point, and I think we can accommodate that. It'll just be a detour to Kimmel Road, but I don't see any major complications with keeping that open path to Ramsey Road, because I know there's Henderson Concrete is down there. There's a Niehaus warehouse down there, and I don't think some of those trucks can't even cross the tracks though, can they?
They don't budge.
Yeah.
You just can't trust that track.
Yeah.
And they do not, we found out during that storm, the trees fell on Main Street there, and we couldn't get out.
Gotcha.
I mean, they did not care.
Yeah.
We got called Louisville, and they really don't care.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll take that note and we'll include that in the maintenance of traffic plans. You want to come up? Yeah, what was your name again, just for the record? Lee Reitmeyer. Thank you.
I'm Matt Rao. I own the 400 Felt King Road property. I don't see any reason or how this is the most feasible route to take is to cut through and align with Ramsey Road. This has to be the most unfeasible and most impactful to the people around this area, especially to my apartment complex. You're taking all this parking away from these people. There's 20, 25 properties. You're going over top of two people's houses for what? It doesn't accomplish anything. I don't see any real benefit to the taxpayer. There's hundreds of better ways. This has to be the least feasible out of all ways that I can think of in my head. I mean, how, as an engineer, can you design this to tee into a road that's hardly used? I mean, what's that solve? Tell me that. What's it solve? Besides getting grant money and working some companies from out of town, what's that solve? And all it is to me is just a land grab to all this right here. You're not benefiting the community positively.
If you're done with your comments, I'll address.
Yeah, I
Is that your only question? Or questions, comments?
that's all I can think of now. I just don't see why this is even an option.
Okay. What was your first name again?
Matt?
Thank you. So one of the main goals of this project was intersection improvements and intersection safety. As you can see, as we all know right now, all three of these intersections are at askew, especially Felt King and Sievers. Those are incredibly dangerous angles. You get the A-post, the A-frame in the way of your vehicle. It's hard to see. So one of our main goals was to correct the sight distance issue and the improper angle. And like I said earlier, our main intention was to connect Severs and Felt King like it is now. That was our desire, our main goal. And like I said, we spent 4 months fighting with NDOT and DNR to allow us to make that connection. In the end, we lost. We couldn't use that alignment. So then we moved on to alternatives. And I'll be happy to show those with you. I think I have your email address, right? I have those other alternatives that we looked at. We spent a month, 2 months looking at alternatives for those intersections. And I agree, this is not our favorite alignment. Our favorite alignment was what we had originally. It impacted the least number of people. It met our main goal of intersection improvement, and it connected where most of the travel goes. But our hands were tied in that direction. We couldn't go that way. So this, we believe, is the next best alternative. That still meets our goal. We still have 90-degree intersection. We still improve our sight distance at those intersections. But again, is it our favorite? It's not. But it's the hand we're dealt. It's the direction we need to go. And this is going to improve Main Street. As you can see for phase 1, we've already had a lot of development through there. This allows us to have sidewalk out to the schools. That was another main goal that we've had for 10 years. I've been here 9, and it was a goal before I even started. So this has been 10 to 15 years in the making, is to improve Main Street from 22nd Street out to Bauer Drive. So breaking it up into phases. Now we have phase 2. That's going to meet that goal out to the school. I think I addressed all your specific questions. Does anybody else have questions or comments?
I have a couple more.
Okay.
You know, I'm not disagreeing that there's not a sightline issue, but I can't recall a single accident that's been reported at that intersection.
I have those records in my office. I've
never seen one there. I can think of 10, 20 different intersections in Vincennes that are more dangerous than that intersection right there.
We had to file the crash reports with the application, so we have those on file. I think we had I'm going on a limb here. I think we had 3 in, what year did we apply? Was it 18? Anyway, for the 3 years before, there were, I believe, at least 3 crashes at those intersections, and I believe 1 of those 9 were personal injury. All of them had property damage, and I think there was 1 that had personal injury. So there are documented crashes at those intersections.
I think in our CE doc, even just from 2013 and 2014, we had seven crashes.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, it was enough. There were enough crashes that it caught NDOT's attention, and I believe that's what helped us get the funding for this project.
I guess my other question would be, you know, obviously this isn't ideal, like you said, so why don't we postpone this particular segment until we can get something that's a little more feasible and a little more, less impactful? Why don't we push and push and push back? I mean, 4 months is nothing. Why can't we push back until we get what we want?
Because
I mean,
we're not going to get it.
Why should we settle?
It's this or nothing. And the no build, we don't believe the no build option is a good option.
I fail to see how it improves anything. I think it'd be more impactful to leave it like it is and use that money in a better suited area.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm William Pfeiffer. I own that property there on Main Street. I lived there about 30 years, and I don't think I've ever seen an accident. I live right on Main Street and Felt King Road, and I don't think I ever saw an accident except when the police was chasing somebody up that road and finally caught him. But I pay about $2,500 a year on those 2 houses in taxes. And I lived there about 30 years, but I finally wanted a house with a basement, so I moved and got a different lot and built another house. But I think it's a waste of money and a waste of time and a waste of property. I don't think they'll ever find a house for the 2 renters I've got in Vincennes for the price I'm renting them to.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Angel, yes or no? You look, no? Okay. All right. So with that, we'll go ahead and close the meeting. And then we'll be around for the next half hour or so. If anybody wants to look at their property specifically, has any questions for me or the designers, we'll stick around and see if we can get your questions answered. Thank you for coming.